This episode of No Clip was recorded in front of a live studio audience. Hi, welcome to No Clip. Get the fuck out of here! I'm Dave Watt. Alright, obviously you guys aren't mature enough to handle someone listening to you talking to someone. This is on you then. Welcome to No Clip. I'm Chad Roden.
I'm JJ Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kenner.
And today we're joined by a special guest, Faun Cushman.
Hey.
And today we're going to be talking about Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, which was a game developed by Sucker Punch and was released in 2002 on the PlayStation 2. It's a lot of twos there.
Not enough.
Not enough. Okay. Sly Cooper is very much just a platformer game. Like, that is what the game sort of sets out to be, and even though it has this veneer of being like a stealth game, because you're playing a Thievius raccoon, the stealth elements are basically non-existent through the majority of this game.
Yeah.
This is from an age where you didn't have to be anything other than just a platformer. Like,
True.
that you could just be sold on that with a nice kitty veneer over top of it to make it really acceptable and cute.
The stealth goes as far as like enemy with flashlight.
Yeah.
And if you're outside of the light, they don't see you.
And a dozen variations on enemies with flashlights.
Yes.
And they happen to just coincidentally move at the exact speed like other enemies in platformer games that and are circles that you have to jump over.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hey, you gotta get in the barrel though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Very stealthy barrels.
Yeah.
Just conveniently located
Tiptoes.
where you need them at.
It's actually one of the things that it came about from such like a totally non-related subject. But Andy and I once were talking about how in this game, whenever you're talking to Bentley or Murray on like the
Binocucom?
Binocucom.
Of course you know the name.
You can use the left and right analog sticks to sort of like shift player portraits around.
Yeah. You can just make them like move their heads in circles if you want.
Yeah. And like the parallel that I drew to that obviously was the codec calls in the Metal Gear Solid games. And it's funny because Metal Gear Solid 2 came out 1 year prior to this game, and like this game obviously has noticed that game exists in its creation, but I feel like it doesn't go any further than homaging to it occasionally.
Right. It's just a reference.
Yeah.
Or an Easter egg even.
Yeah.
The opening of the game really was just like a straight reference to the opening of Metal Gear Solid 1, right? Like it has the codec conversations, you have full control over your binoculars, and you're like looking in different directions. It's the same thing as what happens right after you get out of the like opening sneaking sequence as the credits are rolling and you reach the helipad.
Man, yeah, it's actually been just so long since I've played the first Metal Gear Solid game that didn't even cross my mind when I booted this game up.
It was the very first thing that I thought of in the entire game.
Honestly, I think that I played this game before I played Metal Gear Solid 1.
Really?
Because Metal Gear Solid 2 was the first Metal Gear game that I played.
Oh, I knew that.
And I know that we probably, like in my household, we likely had this game like at least close to release. And I never went back to play the first Metal Gear until a while after.
Did you have like a very platformer-friendly household?
It was, my brother was really into it. And it kind of like rubbed off on me to a certain extent, but I'm not sure.
I fucking love platformers.
Yeah.
Is it bad that I never played a Metal Gear Solid? To this day,
I haven't
I've never
either,
played a Metal Gear Solid game.
Not one?
Not a single one. I've watched somebody play maybe like 10 minutes of a Metal Gear Solid game.
Huh.
And that's it.
I've also never played Metal Gear.
Okay, good.
Unrelated to anything, I played through all like 4 of the main series games at the time in like one straight summer, and I think
nice.
I think
I
the
forget
first
about
one
Metal
is
Gear
the
Summer.
best.
Really?
Not like
Still.
age adjusted. Like I think Metal Gear Solid 1 is the best of the 4 Metal Gear Solid games.
Really?
I still think 2 is the best, but I've also never played 4, but I've been assured that it will not.
It will not.
usurp
It's not.
2.
It's not in that conversation.
The only scene I remember when I was watching this was he was in the back of a room and there was somebody giving a speech.
And he was
That's-
sneaking.
He was sneaking, but it was I guess you could had darts that you could put people to sleep.
Yeah.
So all I did was you just put the whole audience to sleep
Yeah,
for no
that's
reason
true.
other than just like there's a guy giving a speech to like
A
30
bunch of
people that were
unconscious people.
unconscious.
Yeah. But, okay, so, more on topic, I guess.
Right.
And within this, like, the early 2000s era PlayStation 2, I feel like the comparison cannot be avoided between the PlayStation 2 platformer
Trio.
Yeah.
Mascot platformers.
Yeah. The PlayStation tried to sort of... I say tried. They largely succeeded. The sales numbers on these games were incredible. Sort of reclaim being like the platformer console out of Nintendo, which was not particularly difficult to do in the GameCube era, really.
Nope.
No, they had too much backlash from Sunshine at the time.
Yeah. So, we're going to have a lot of backlash from our Sunshine episode. But the other two games, of course, in this are Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. So Sly Cooper gets to be the only one protagonist of the three. But having played all of these games, and albeit I haven't played the sequel to Sly, or its sequel, I have played all of the Ratchet and Clank games, all of the main series ones, and all of the Jak and Daxter ones, and I really have to say I don't think Sly holds up in comparison.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't go so far as to say this is a bad game. Sly Cooper comes off to me as more of a like the summer blockbuster of games. It's a game that I have no complaints with. Well, I have complaints, but I have no significant. I'm not gonna come out and be like, yeah, this game is trash. People who like it are idiots. But
thanks.
It's just like a game that is fun to play and is inoffensive, but I don't think it is anywhere near as groundbreaking or just largely good as the other two.
Yeah. I can agree. I've never played Jak and Daxter. It's on my long list of games I need to play.
Right.
But I think at least in comparison to Ratchet and Clank, Ratchet and Clank gets its formula so right on the first try. And I think that's why it's the most popular of the three and the one that's had the best longevity. But I think Sly, as it evolved over its series, makes it better than Ratchet and Clank overall, because I've only played Ratchet and Clank 1 and 2 and don't really care to ever play any of the rest of them, and I've played all 4 Sly Cooper games. So
despite all of my Ratchet deadlocked jokes, you're not even remotely interested to touch that one?
No.
Dang.
I think actually Sly Cooper is more of a pure platformer than either of the other two, though.
I would agree.
It definitely is.
I mean, because I think the appeal to Ratchet and Clank was that it was a platformer, but it's also a shooter, right? And it
had the novelty weapons,
right? And that I think that's the big deal was Ratchet wasn't this your standard shooter where you have a sniper rifle, blah blah blah. You just have the standard guns and you go around, but
you have a gun that turns people into chickens.
Right?
Instead,
yeah. So you get the novelty in the variety of weapons, and you get the platform. But I think it just as a pure platform, I think Sly Cooper was better, at least more well made as just a platformer.
I'll also say before you respond to that, that Sly Cooper to me feels like a spiritual successor to Crash Bandicoot.
Why?
I would put... I think
terms
Jak
of its
and
pure
Daxter is
gameplay.
More of a...
Because,
okay, actually, I kind of see
because
what you're getting at.
it's platforming on a point A to point B.
Right.
It's very linear. All the
linear.
levels are very
It's
linear.
linear.
Yeah.
And in the way that Crash Bandicoot is.
Not to that degree, of course.
Right, yeah, because Crash Bandicoot's really hard, and Sly is they're simpler and more about just having a good time.
So if Crash Bandicoot can be considered the common ancestor to all of these games, which I think is actually a fair thing to say.
Well, yeah, at least to this game.
Yeah, well, given that it sort of won it was the platform game.
Well,
on
also
PlayStation.
Spyro.
Oh yeah, I always forget about Spyro because I never really liked Spyro, but
Yeah,
that's just me.
I agree.
It was more open. It was my understanding was that it was much less linear than the other two, so it might be a better comparison point for Jak and Daxter.
True. Yeah, Jak and Daxter feels more like Crash Bandicoot's platforming if Crash Bandicoot didn't feel like he was made of 1,000 tons of bricks nailed together.
What does that... sort of heavy. He feels heavy.
He feels incredibly heavy.
Crash does feel pretty heavy.
Yeah, but whereas Sly is the exact opposite and feels like he feels like you would expect a raccoon to move around.
Like Poofy,
yeah,
fluffy,
yeah,
easily thrown.
Yeah, very easily thrown. Weirdly easily thrown.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him floaty, but
right.
as close as you can get to that.
Yeah, yeah, because Actually, probably, this game actually might have my favorite implementation of a double jump in a game, because it doesn't feel like you're just leaping off of the air, because you're just doing a flip to get, like,
Right.
additional,
You actually
like,
don't
height.
get that much more height.
Right. They cheese it a little bit just to sort of, like, make it more functional, but it is, like, it feels like it's something that could actually happen, as opposed to just being like, whoop!
Yeah. At least in comparison to other video game double jumps.
Right.
Yeah. More easily believed.
There's like an invisible platform that.
So, JJ, as the non-platformer guy, how do you
Oh,
feel
God.
about Sly Cooper
Oh, God.
and the Thievius Raccoonus?
Oh no, it was so fast. I was hoping to talk about his like raccoon tail and how fluffy that made him feel, and like all the general animation stuff.
You haven't really said anything yet.
And the thing is Wrecking the Gungus.
Yes.
This may be not just my least favorite, but the worst video game I think I've intentionally played in the last 10 years.
So tell us how you really
What?
feel though.
Wait, let me unpack this really quick.
Yes.
The last 10... What did you play 10 years ago that you were like,
So bad.
nothing is worse than this? 2006 going around.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't be as surprised by that
I know.
statement as I
I
am,
know.
because you are pretty selective with what games you play.
Yes, kind of, which is part of the reason that I enjoy this cast so much, because it forces me outside of my bubble
that
so
just
hard.
seems like a ludicrous statement.
It is, I think, going back to Sly Cooper and realizing I think Sly Cooper really encapsulates how much we've grown as a medium in the last 15 years. I think this is like the Sunday morning like cartoon show of video games compared to like the modern day like graphic novel, if that comparison like makes sense or is apt. Like the medium has just gone so much farther, both mechanically and as like a stylistic form, than what Sly Cooper represents. You described, like it's a pure platformer, and you're correct in that regard, and that all the game truly cares about is platforming. The closest thing that this game has like to a unique selling point, in the same way that the other PS2 era platformers has as a unique selling point, is that you can press the circle button to be cool in various contexts. It's like just like the generic cool
It
button.
is the contextually cool button.
Yes.
Like, jump and press circle to land on a spire. Jump and press circle to slide on a
Hold
rail.
circle to
slide.
sneak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go invisible.
But
Just saying.
Damn.
it wasn't just like, it's so linear, and I love linear experiences, and none of the things that I'm going to say are
You
it's
preface
all worse
this
by
every
comparison.
time.
I know.
And it's like, I feel like at some point we could probably... I guess we can't assume that people have heard all of the
No,
episodes,
but this is the difference in my case, because I was very deliberate in what I said when Andy first prompted me, which is, I don't just think that this game isn't for me. I legitimately think that the medium has grown beyond Sly Cooper as a game, and almost any platformer that you have in the modern day, even Super Mario Sunshine, which I played, I felt like was so much better than this experience. And that the only unique selling points that I could truly find in Sly Cooper as an experience were sort of the things that it was trying to project onto me as like a brand or a marketing tool. Like the things that seemed appealing to me about Sly Cooper, or at least what the game wanted me to think was appealing about it, other than just the same kind of platforming that you experience in a lot of other contexts, are like the characters that you interact with, the stylized setting, the transitions between these worlds, which were all just like a cartoon show for 10-year-olds to me.
Right.
Yeah. And because of that, all I was left with was essentially a platforming skin that was unevolved from the PlayStation 1 era platformers like Crash Bandicoot. Like it is that like 20-year-old experience given a very, very pretty veneer for kids because it wants to market itself for kids. Like, I legitimately was so worried about coming in here knowing that this would be, like, your guest episode, Faun, and that you were, like, one of the major pushes for us to do this game. Because, like, I knew from every hour that I spent with this game that there was a chance that you were just going to, like, disembowel me immediately.
The thought has crossed my mind. No, I understand what you're saying. I think the big deal here is it is such a pure platformer that if you are not a platformer, if you don't really enjoy platformers, then I could definitely understand how you wouldn't like this game, right? to me, I like you made the reference to this veneer for children and things like that, and that's kind of the selling point. I really like the style of the game, mostly. I wouldn't say that if you would have just put this in a different form of style where maybe it's not a raccoon or it's just people and you're just doing the same things, maybe it's not as enjoyable. I actually believe that the game wouldn't be as enjoyable. What I enjoyed most about the game was the characters, the specific worlds and the style. I love the contextually cool circle button. I don't know. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
But,
so am I alone in the room then in just thinking and just essentially just dismissing almost every character that presented to me in the game?
You have a surprise ally in me on this podcast because I'm also not a huge fan of this game overall. I definitely agree with your point that the game does have it has a very 90s early 2000s cartoon aesthetic to it because that's when it was made, and but I disagree in that is necessarily a negative thing. I think that the game does its own art style well. Just the sort of wacky way that it allows for the game to actually do its signaling and platforming in a way that means something to the player.
What do you mean by signaling?
Okay, for example, one of the contextually cool circle button actions is to use your cane to grab onto a hook or something, and the hooks are all these very extremely not realistic, huge jaggedy crooked hooks that would hang from ropes, and so it's very clear to see where that is, and that's a place to jump to, and that kind of a thing is only possible. Well, I mean, it's possible in a lot of ways, but in this game, it is made possible through its kind of wacky, no right angles, all bent up cartoon style. And I think that the art style actually does work for what this game tries to accomplish.
I would agree. And I would also disagree with JJ's point, or your point, I don't know why.
It identifies him.
Right. That you said, I don't know if you were being literal when you said it, but you said it had the veneer of a cartoon show over top of a PlayStation 1 level of
Crash Bandicoot is what I was trying
to I think that's not giving the game enough credit because it's clearly improved upon and is better than a PlayStation 1 era platformer.
Right. I mean, and I would agree. And when you go back and play Crash Bandicoot, you jump, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you run. And you jump
No, you literally just run.
Yes.
I think it's you run and occasionally get a mask that makes your running all you have to do. You
right.
don't have to jump
exactly.
anymore.
And then, so I mean, in that sense, this game has obviously come a long way.
Right. Yeah. From the PlayStation 1 era.
And I know that we've said that the stealth aspect of this game is not.
Up to snuff.
Yeah, a huge factor, I would say. But I actually think that makes the platforming. I could understand how more stealth would be more enjoyable, but the amount of stealth in the game makes the platforming much better to me. Because, say, when you played Crash Bandicoot, right?
Yeah.
There is no worry about being seen or having to go in a certain direction or the speed at which you go, right? The whole objective of Crash Bandicoot was to finish the level as fast as possible, right? So, I think this game changes that in the sense of you are no longer just, let's just get through this level as fast as possible. You're also let's get through this level without being seen or without, there's more obstacles that you have to
in order to get through it as efficiently as possible,
it's
you
not
have to
always
worry
about
about
speed.
more stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
When you were discussing earlier, talking about the positioning of the hooks and using the cartoony style to make gameplay more obvious, to try and make those two things more harmonious.
Right.
I actually think this game has a lot of examples of them being lazy in that regard and choosing styles that are not harmonious with the gameplay. First and foremost, there's something that I might have said many mean-spirited jokes about at the time with Rachel, but the casino level when you're going through Bulldog's man's his awesome palace. In order to keep the levels structurally linear, instead of trying to devise a casino or a circumstance in the casino that would make sense why you had to go through in this linear fashion, and they wouldn't even have to worry about building the sort of wider levels that the game's clearly not trying to focus on. They just like flood the lower levels of the casino, and they never explain to you why the lower levels are flooded. It makes no sense within the context of the level, and there's tiny things like that all over the place in this game. In the rail shooter minigames, when the big, dumb, stereotypical fat joke person is running across trying to get his key, there's just like 8 or 9 garages just all in a row that are just there just so they can open up. Like, you could have created like a cartoony theme that, oftentimes, like the purpose of a theme is to make that sort of arbitrary video game design decision seem harmonious. It's so that you can put the crazy jagged hook there and it seems fitting in the level and not, a huge distraction that people point out and laugh about.
Right.
Okay, I guess what I will have to say about all this is that I think you are correct that, like, this game was made, what we said, 2002?
Yep.
Yeah.
In a time where, like, it was more, like, the norm to just, like, be unapologetically, like, video gamey. Like, I think you were correct in saying, like, the medium has moved past this point.
Right.
And where, like, Sly Cooper does not care that it doesn't tell you why the lower levels of the casino are flooded. It's just, like, it wants to present you with, like, cool levels. And, like, it just, like, levels in a video game.
It does, yeah, it has the same roots as, like, if you look at Super Nintendo games, especially platformers, from that era, you end up, and I realize that I'm taking an even larger step backward in the evolution of games to compare, which doesn't bode well for it, but, like, every Super Nintendo game had, like, a dinosaur level, and, like, a space level, and you're like, why? It's like, because we wanted to do it, so let's do that. And Sly Cooper takes the excuse where it's like, well, I walked into a green orb in a door, and now on the other side, something wacky's happening.
And it's you're being kind of disingenuous to the reasons that old video games had like a dinosaur level and a robot level and a space level. They didn't have that because a whole bunch of like a 20 to 40-year-old like developers just really were into like dinosaurs in space.
Because they thought people would buy it.
Yeah, because they thought kids would buy it.
Yeah, I'm also not defending it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it has its roots in the same place. It has they have common ancestors.
Yeah. I guess maybe here's a slightly less inflammatory way to phrase my question, which comes back to a whole lot of the points that we're trying to do in this podcast generally.
Fuck Sly Cooper.
Like, looking back historically, like, why is this game the platformer that we wanted to focus on? Like, comparing it more also to Sunshine, I can point to a whole lot of, like, direct, really weird, deliberate choices and evolutions in, like, the Mario formula that made Super Mario Sunshine stand out a bunch and was worth talking about. Weird decisions around voice acting, weird decisions around making all the platforms, like, justified in some kind of narrative sense that Mario never had to before. I'm curious what, compared to its peers, both, like, in the future, if it has any sort of, like, descendants in that way, or in the past, Sly Cooper did differently that was worth talking about. Like, I don't understand its historical significance to us, or even significance in its time.
I think I was the one, forever ago, when we were making a list of games to talk about, I brought it up, because I'm probably the biggest Sly fan, well, of the three of us. And...
I think JJ might be.
Yeah, well, maybe JJ is secretly a huge fan. But I always felt like Sly, like I said, is my favorite franchise of like the three tentpole PS2 platformer.
Right.
Yeah.
With
a Z, of course.
I already
it's
said
2002.
Franchise, so
yeah,
I was like,
sure.
Okay. So, and I feel like the game is often overlooked or not talked about. Like, I tried to, like, look up a review for it, and, like, I could only find, like, 2.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just, I feel like this game isn't acknowledged. And like, I feel like people didn't hate it. I feel like people liked it at the time, and it's like, no one talks about it.
That's actually runs slightly contrary, and maybe we just have different...
different exposure.
Yeah, to this kind of a thing. To what I was going to say about it is because when we talked about Super Mario Sunshine... The reason that we talked about Super Mario Sunshine is because, as we said at the very beginning, it is the black sheep of the Mario franchise.
Right.
The Mario, like, name is a huge collection of platformers that all followed a very similar pattern, and Sunshine is a hard left turn. The reason I find Sly Cooper in its time and now to be interesting in comparison to other games of its ilk, it comes down to the fact that the game was so well liked and so well received, where the copy of the box that we have the microphone sitting on right now has the PlayStation Greatest Hits logo on it, because the game sold more than, I think it's 1 million copies to hit the Greatest Hits level. Like, this is a game that was, like, lauded at its time and largely, like, well received. And that is in itself interesting for a game that two different people can look at and say, this really appeals to me, and this really doesn't appeal to me. Both people who like platformers.
I think, I mean, especially now, right? So, 2016, we can look back on, we have somewhat of a plethora of platformers to say, and then we might, I mean, at this point, you can look back and say, you know, maybe Sly Cooper wasn't that great of a platformer as compared to, you know, 20 years of platformers.
But like at the
right?
time.
But in 2002?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
2002, this game comes out, and before this is rather early into the PS2 era, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And before that, it was, Crash Bandicoot and Mario, right?
Yeah,
and you
you
look
had,
at
like,
and you look right now, and those two are the pinnacle. They're like the founding fathers almost, right? I mean, you look at
Yeah.
In
like,
terms of
like,
3D
like,
platformers.
yeah, like Mario is huge, right?
Yes.
I mean, Mario is the biggest, like, you know, one of the most recognizable video games of all time.
I think that is a good point, because like you look at like what were the big platformers before this. You had Mario 64.
They were all
You-
Nintendo published,
Yeah,
for the most part.
and you had Crash Bandicoot and Spyro.
Yeah.
And like this game
and
is
Spyro's
definitely
like dead now. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
But
it's got
Skylanders
Spyro
is
in the
really
last-
successful.
So I think Skylanders is a bit eclipsed
Yeah, at
Spyro.
this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game is like obviously I would say a few steps forward from those.
Right. And then, I know that, I'm sorry.
I think also it's fine.
It's also
The
fine.
bashful look at your face.
I was gonna say it's also more like got more of a story to it than any of those other games, which I feel like was more like novel at the time and more of a selling point. That you had like it had more of a plot, and like a lot of platformers up till that time were just like save the princess, get the MacGuffin,
Right.
go through all the levels,
Right.
and this has like a narrative thread.
Mm.
And it's a narrative told to you in like lore dump cards that
Yeah.
you shift between them once at a time, and I think other than the occasional in the hub world like over speech, I don't like when it's on the little microphone thing and they're projecting it to all the
Oh,
minions.
yeah, the like the PA system.
Yeah, it's never like developed within the context of the level, and that's the kind of storytelling that we would rightfully kind of like make fun of or revile today.
Right. No, I think that you're totally like correct in that like this game does feel dated.
Yeah, that's one thing though that I think you can sort of attribute to its time. And like you asked a long ass time ago at this point, if there were characters that like any of us actually cared about. And I'm sure that they both have characters that they like. But I like Murray, and I like not Murray. Fuck Murray. I like
Bentley.
Sorry, I like Bentley, aka just Will Ferrell doing the Harry Carey voice, like Turtle, and Sly himself. And I think that the voice acting is actually quite good for its time as well.
In Murray's defense, his character does flesh out in the later.
Is in the later. Okay.
All the characters are fleshed out.
Oh yeah, I don't want to.
Right.
By the way, in case I have never played any of the later Sly games, and I'm not making any claims about the later Sly games.
Right.
It's because of what I'm saying here is that it's historically within context. I couldn't find anything that felt like me think it was worth my time going back to it. I'm completely open to the idea that they actually turn these people like into characters in the later games, and that they turn it into. They just get better. I can't think about it. There's so many broad different ways this game could improve upon what it is because we're looking back at it now from 15 years,
Right.
all the improvements made at it. That I'm totally open to like Sly 4 being like an actually great game that I could enjoy as much as I could enjoy platformers. But I feel like it's important because we've discussed multiple times how like many people back in the day like actually seem to like enjoy it, and how in Andy's case that it doesn't feel like it's being held on. I think it's important within context for us to know like the kind of people at that time that were praising it, which is why I got an excerpt from the IGN review
How dare you?
of Sly Cooper.
I'm actually really
How dare
interested
you.
to hear what it says.
Yeah.
Not.
It could be.
Also, the most frequently quoted video game publication on our podcast is IGN, with a total of 2 mentions.
Oh,
Way to go, IGN.
Yeah. I think that's fair, given how, like, even if we don't think they're, like, excellent even within context, they're notable. I think they're representative, at the very least, and they always have been representative.
In the same way that Sly Cooper is important in the modern day, IGN is important in the modern day just because they existed in 2002
Right.
and somehow still do now.
Oh, yeah, they
Hit
do
us-
still exist, don't they?
hit us with that.
I was
though.
blown away.
Question. Alright. So, in, like... I'm trying to word this in a way that won't make it seem like I'm trying to be shitty to this reviewer who's now probably, like, in his, like, mid-40s somewhere. We're waiting for IGN. But if I can also control my phone long enough to zoom it correctly. Quote, Sly is cool in many ways. He's stealthy, talented, and always up for dangerous missions. There is an unspoken cool about his character that's hard to not like. See? I like Sly a lot.
What kind of article is
That is a review. That is a review. They gave an
horrible.
extremely high positive score from IGN.
That's,
like the biggest review website at the time.
That's
To be fair, that guy's probably in his mid-20s now, not his mid-40s.
yeah. I was about to say, I don't-
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the games at the time were made for people who would respond to media like that. They weren't like as critical as the media has become over time. The standards were not raised at the time. No, should they be even contextually? It's a young medium. I'm just saying that now, today, I cannot look back on Sly Cooper based on what I experienced in like a positive light. And I think if we looked at the people, either that we were as children, or who were reviewing it and like were embodying the games industry at the time, I think we could be critical of them and the reasons they like Sly Cooper on the same grounds. I just think we've grown.
I will say this. I don't disagree. So Andy and I both played it as children, right?
Yes.
So,
I also did.
I actually remember
in-
playing this on like the PS2 Jam Pack.
What is
Oh,
a
hell yeah.
What is
Yeah.
a jam pack? Please tell me.
It's like a demo disc. I forget what. Did it come
There
with
was
like
like
PlayStation Monthly or
yeah,
something?
there's like 30
you could
games
buy it
on
at
there that
Walmart.
were
That's
like.
also true.
Like that's where I got it, and it just
You
comes
play
with
like in a level of each.
yeah,
game
it comes with
on,
like a bunch of demos on it.
Oh man, I played the first level of Jack and Daxter on one of these discs.
Yes.
Yeah, the jam pack. Yeah.
So, yeah, and
I have
I-
a weird like collection of jam packs.
I
as
got
well.
Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper because of that jam pack. So.
Yeah, for some reason, the branding makes it more notable than just a demo disc.
Right.
Because
Right.
like, you get a
Jam
demo
pack.
disc, but you need a fucking jam pack.
Yeah.
I
But
played
anyway.
on a jam
But-
pack Half-Life 1 for the first time.
What?
And I was so scared of the zombies that I never got the game. One of my favorite games.
Wow.
Half-Life 1 was on the PlayStation?
Yeah, they ported it to the PlayStation 2.
Oh.
PlayStation 2, I think.
That seems so
Yeah.
weird to me.
It is weird.
But anyway, back
yeah,
to Faun.
I understand that if you going back and play this game now, I can understand some of the concerns you have. But like, so we played it as children, right? And then I played it recently for this podcast this past summer, and I enjoyed it again, partly because of sentimental value, right? Because of who I was as a kid. I was like, oh man, it's great to
The
be able to play
nostalgia,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
palpable.
But I do think that there's something to say about it as a platformer that I understand what you're saying in the sense of like there are aspects of the game that we can be very critical about now that would not exist in platformers of today,
Yeah.
right? But just as a pure platformer, I would like to, and I'm actually curious about this, what's a better platformer from that time?
It's a really difficult question to ask JJ.
JJ,
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
right. But I'm saying like, and I'm not just specific to JJ though, right?
Right.
Like Ratchet and Clank, great game, not a better platformer. Jack and Daxter, good game, not a better platformer.
I would argue
Right.
that it's a better platformer.
Jack and
personally.
Daxter.
Yeah.
I can't weigh in on
that's
that.
fine,
That's true, yeah.
but I think there was some people that would agree
Mario
with you.
Sunshine is a better
But-
platformer.
Also,
but
2002, actually.
in a
same
novel way.
It was the same year? I was
I'm
gonna
saying-
bring us Sunshine again.
I'm not talking about novelty. I'm talking
Right.
about pure platform experience.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why I enjoyed this game so much because of it's a total right. I mean, like you can go back to Mario 64 or Crash Bandicoot, which Crash Bandicoot was linear in a sense that I don't even consider that as much.
Right. The Crash Bandicoot is an interesting example, and which is why we brought it up. But the main thing holding Crash back from the reason that a lot of these games are such a step forward from Crash is because Crash is a game that didn't have analog sticks.
Right.
That's
true. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, I'm just saying as a platformer, it's difficult to make a pure platformer that is still enjoyable because of the actual aspects. Like you can look at like Prince of Persia, right, or something like that, where it's like nobody plays that game. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like forgotten in the annals of. Are
you talking about like the original? I think Sands of Time is a great game.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we can have that discussion at a different time. But
my
my main point is that to just make something that is a difficult platform, and that's something else I'd like to get into, is what you thought of the difficulty of this game.
Yeah.
But I think just to make something like this that's a platformer and still have some like this mass appeal is something that's special to this game without having some sort of novelty or like hybrid shooter type
gimmick or something.
I really don't feel like that this is a preface to my statement, not to, like a mission statement for this podcast or anything. But I really don't feel like Sly Cooper is a game that needs like defended. Like I think that people like this game, and I've already said that I don't think that this is a bad game. But the one thing that I will defend about this game more so than any other aspect of it is the platforming itself, and the reason for that is just because Sly has a really fluid movement to him that not a lot of other platformers that I've ever played had, and it's the contextual cool button is what does it, is because when you're like actually platforming across like gaps and around areas, you can literally like hold the stick up and just if you input the button presses like perfectly, have this like nice line that feels almost like a Tony Hawk combo.
Right.
Where like by the end of it you're like you jump across all the things, you swing across a gap, you land and press yourself up against a wall and you congratulate yourself on a job well done. And the platforming levels are my absolute favorite part of this game. Because the levels where you're just Sly Cooper and you're just platforming are really fucking solid.
And I think most people would agree in the sense of like those are like and
that's like 85%
right.
of the
and they had to put in those other
I
levels.
feel like it's less than that, but we'll talk about that.
I think each world had at least one level where you were Murray, or where you were defending Murray, right? And then one level that was you had to like pilot something.
The first
of a sort. Right?
I could be wrong. I don't think the very, very first level had any sort of like driving or piloting level.
It didn't.
And I only say that because
it had a minigame. It was a turret section.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Shooting
other than that, right? So
Yeah.
there's, we'll say 2 levels per world in which you are having, and I understand. I looking back on that, I could have played this game without those levels at all.
If there's a part, if there's something that we could lump together with the like doing things because it is a video game, because it is what video games are expected to do at the time, having minigames and having like asinine collectibles is just a thing that a platformer had. Right. And games that I like better than this one and games that I like less than this one did both of those things better and worse.
Yeah.
So
it took me a hilariously long time to even realize what the purposes of the coins were.
Oh, yeah.
Get
the horseshoe?
I eventually had to just like actually test it and just like be really careful and just watch what happened when I got the last
Really?
coin.
Yeah, to 100.
And I was like, horseshoe, funny. That's where they're coming
that's
from.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
No, I actually, it's funny because, and I would like to, I guess, talk about the difficulty, but I actually thought that some of those mini games were the hardest levels in the game.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yes.
Because, and again, I actually would like to make the reference is I think there was no contextual cool button, right? And so like,
that's true.
So like what you're saying with the platform levels where you're running through, and like I understand that it maybe decreases the difficulty slightly because you can do that, but I agree in the sense of it just was cool, like just to be able to just string along, it
feels good.
Some of the best levels were Panda King I thought, where you're running along the rooftops and you're hooking and then you're spire jumping
Yeah.
and then
You
you
do
like
the
land and
slide.
have to go immediately invisible because like
Right.
somebody's turning around.
Yeah.
And when you actually strung that combo together, you were like, hell yes, this is
Yeah.
what this
That's
game
when
is for.
the
You know what
game
I'm
like
saying?
really hits its stride,
Right.
though.
I think that's what
Yeah.
the
Towards
game was
the end, yeah.
for, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, without that, in the minigame levels, it was
How
some
important
difficulty.
are the sort of like per level unlockable abilities to your experience?
You mean the circle button?
Getting all the
No.
buttons, all the
Getting all
bottles.
the bottles
Oh,
to get
zero.
to open the...
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can
Saves.
understand if you're a perfectionist how
When-
you would need to do that.
When I was a
but
child, I know 100% that I completed this whole game. I got every one of those clues. I opened all the saves. And, I mean, I remember doing it. I remember enjoying it when I was a kid. For this playthrough, I obviously didn't want to spend all that time doing it. I got one. It's the best one. It's the dive, like the quick dive.
Yeah.
And I was happy with that. And that was just coincidence, too. It just happens to be in a level where it's easy to get the clues.
Is that
Yeah.
the one? Is that the one where you hit the triangle and you like have an attack that rolls forward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I agree with that as well. I think not the first time I played through, but one of the previous
Previous to
What
first.
is the-
Subsequent.
subsequent. Wow. Okay. One of the subsequent times that I played through it, I did do that, and it is enjoyable, right, to have those moves that you didn't know. And I remember thinking like, wow, I should have done this first time.
Yeah.
But the grind is because they're just tertiary skills, right? They're not really like this. You don't
They're not your
need
core
them.
abilities, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They're a lot of them don't even do anything that great.
Right.
And
it's
isn't
more
this,
just
like,
cool.
One of your, based on maybe I think out of cast discussions with you, Andy, like isn't this one of like what you think is like one of your cardinal sins in games these days? Like
What?
locking like actual like mechanical ability upgrades behind like arbitrary collectibles.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
Chad said that, but I agree
Yeah.
with it.
I think we all agree. It was on the Hyperlight Drifter podcast.
Uh,
That when you lock
Yeah.
an ability behind like a thing, it feels wrong.
In
Yeah.
hindsight, that probably wasn't the greatest idea.
But I mean, it's fine for this game just
Yeah,
because of
because
the
they're
way
all
that-
Those weren't
bonus.
necessary.
Yeah,
Right.
moves.
we weren't at the point where like we've already had a discussion. Yeah, the game is not mature enough to have like put that kind of a thought into it.
Right.
including things like the live system that is I have no idea why it's in the game at all.
Right. But we discussed that also on Super Mario Sunshine. Came out in the same year. It's like the live system doesn't mean anything. It's just how
A
long until you have to.
carryover
Yeah.
from 2D platformers.
Yeah, it's like how long until you have to try the whole level over instead of just from the checkpoint. It's like,
Right.
whatever. No, what we were talking about earlier with because you're gonna bring up difficulty, and if we're gonna bring up difficulty in such close quarters with us discussing those minigames, each one of those minigames was worse than the previous one.
Yeah.
They
Well,
just keep getting worse as the time goes on.
I disagree
The
with
turn
that.
sections are fine as far as I'm concerned. Like, they're not that bad. But, like, by the time I got to the fucking goddamn chicken thing, I was like, I'm gonna break everything in my room in half. Like,
what was the chicken one?
They're both. I can
I don't remember the
agree.
chicken
Miss Ruby in
one. The worst one.
is I hate both of the mini games
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
world because it's the chicken one and the piranha one,
yep.
and
The
they're
pir-
both
I remember the chicken
so hard.
I'm telling the piranha one. I remember the first time I played this game, I stopped playing for like 2 weeks because I couldn't. I was so. I think I like broke a controller. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like when you're young and you
Yeah.
can't.
Oh, yeah.
You can't actually like rationalize that anger, so you have to like take it out on something.
When I was a kid,
Oh,
I was
man,
playing
that was
the guitar solo in. Was it Freebird? Was in Guitar Hero 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
twisted the neck of the plastic guitar so that like all of the buttons just shot out. Like, I was just so pissed about it.
Yeah.
When you're a child, controllers are just going to get broken.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
But no, the piranha one, the chicken one took me. It's interesting. So when I was younger, I specifically remember the piranha one
Mm-hmm.
just being like the one that I was like, "Fuck this game, I hate it." You know what I'm saying? And then I cooled off for like 2 weeks and came back and like beat it and like I think maybe cried a little bit, tears of joy. But this playthrough, this last time around, the chicken one got me.
Yeah.
I don't remember the chicken one being that difficult when I first played it, but this time, it was as close as I was gonna come to being like, I'm about to break something, you know.
Yeah. Just a refresher, real quick, just to like, so everyone is aware of the frustration.
Yeah.
The chicken minigame was just you had to hit 50 chickens, which ran around and spawned out of stupid little doors in a minute and a half. And then every once in a while, 2 dumbass roosters with, like, giant Batman bombs with fuses would run out and chase you around, and you had to make them run into each other so they would explode. And it's like, every other game... I remember I was frustrated this time on Mugshot's boss battle. He's not even that hard, but, like, every time that I repeated it, I got a little bit better. I did better. I figured out what I was doing wrong. And I completed. I grew and understood with the game. I got worse. Every time I tried the chicken minigame, I probably did it 14 times before I finally got it. That game can go fuck right up.
So many of the minigames make like weird, unpolished decisions also compared to their times. Like the very first like underwater shooting minigame, you don't have like a separate fire button with your thing. You gotta slam the stick over and over again to shoot your buttons.
No,
You can hold it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
You
it's like
it's
a
like a
Robo
twin
Try.
stick
It's cool.
shoot.
So, yeah. one of us does this on every single podcast.
Oh, I've got a second one. Let's
So
see.
you just played it through, thinking that you had
Just
to...
like,
That's the worst shit
This is
I've ever heard in my
actually.
life.
I hope that this one it might have been me shitting and messing up either because the hardest minigame I thought was the racing section, the first one at the dog track. That I almost literally quit the game on that, and I thought I was gonna have to come on this cast and be like, "You guys, I've beaten
defeated.
every Dark Souls game.
I could not get past
From
the racing
somewhere is my
section.
bitch.
It's like,
I could not do this like made for children racing thing." And it was, I figured out later it was because like there's no dedicated acceleration button.
Right.
You just have to like hold forward on the stick to accelerate. And if you ever are not holding forward on the stick, you just go slower, not in like the normal racing way.
that
where
took
you
me-
stop moving.
Yeah.
You
that
move.
took me a couple like tries to remember like the mechanics of it, but then once I got the like, I was like, oh yeah, shit, this is how you do that. Then like the subsequent racing games, I like crushed them.
Like I'm
Crushed
assuming
Crushed it.
that like these problems fall into the same purview of the things that's just been my general narrative on this podcast, which is just it was earlier in the game. They didn't have a lot of other comparison points,
Right.
probably for the kind of games they were trying to imitate in 3D at the time. But it was just
Yeah.
still unpolished and
I honestly never
unnecessary.
even thought about that in terms of like what other 3D racing games exist at the time. But now that I do think about it, you know what 3D games existed at the time? Burnout.
Mario Kart.
I think Mario Kart, Gran Turismo. There were 3 of them
I guess
before this game came
If
out.
we're being really critical, also we can go for like Galaga, every arcade game. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
shooters.
I think that we can pretty much all unanimously shit on some of those minigames
Yeah.
because they were pretty bad.
Like I said, I understand why they did it because it's a platform and they're like, oh, we gotta have minigames.
You have something
But,
to break up the platform.
If there was no
For some
minigames
reason.
at all, I would have
Yeah.
liked this game just as much, if
Yeah.
not more.
There's just as a final note on my thoughts on those minigames, and the one thing that I noted that I was just like, someone didn't like quality control these minigames as a whole, is because there are multiple minigames that have the same mechanics but use a different button to fire. There's
Yeah,
like, you'll
I've
be in that
noticed
boat and you press X to fire the flamethrower, and then there's like another one where you're in like a slightly different boat and you press square instead.
Right.
And it's like, why? Like, square is attack at all times. X for that one.
I will say this: I don't think they were concerned with the anal retentiveness of somebody being like, "Oh, I gotta press a different button."
We just group all those people together and call them the anal retentives.
Yeah.
No. I'll call those the people who understand and accept like ergonomics as a principle.
Yeah, because if
Oh,
you
man.
have a retentive anus, you need to sit in comfortable chairs.
I'm saying there's a reason. Like if we tried to play like a PC game today that like used page up and page down to look up and down instead of doing like a twin stick thing with a controller or something, or like mouse aim.
Or if you played Dark Souls with a keyboard and mouse.
Yes.
Let's bring up the options menu. How do you think we do that? Home. The home button.
Like Namco
Some
Bandai,
keyboards don't even have that button.
Namco Bandai cannot like go up to the people who tried to like play Dark Souls with a keyboard on PC and be like, "Oh, you guys are just anal retentive." It's really just,
You should
like,
use
learn
a
the
controller.
facts.
It's like, you made Pac-Man.
I would agree with
Fuck off.
I would agree with that, but I will say that there's 4 buttons on a pad to hit one button, then have to gotta switch to a different
But it's just weird.
It is weird.
It's inconsistent.
It was, in hindsight, they were probably like, well, shit, we probably should have made the button the same. But it's not like this huge deal.
They all went out drinking. Like, after the game came out, they were like, man, if only we would have made those buttons.
Like, shit.
Square.
They're like, Joe was right, son of a bitch.
We laughed at him. We didn't even fight him out today.
Yeah, we fired him.
Yeah. We should probably call Joe and give him his job.
They'll hear this, and Joe will finally feel validated. It's like someone called him on their bullshit.
I'd like to point out also that the previously mentioned IGN review praised the polish of the minigames.
This was
That guy was-
this IGN review was written by
That guy
11.
was
Yeah,
12. Yeah,
there's-
exactly.
There's no way. Like, I'm sorry.
It was like a guest review. It was
Yeah,
bring
right.
your daughter to work day, and
Like,
she
they-
wrote the review for the game.
That's the worst thing is when you're trying to defend a game, and then there's also somebody else trying to defend the same game that does a really shitty job on
Yes.
the defense. So then you're like, no, like, don't. That doesn't count. Don't listen to this fucker. But
I think because there are other elements of this game that we did like, or at least 3 of us probably.
yeah, the majority.
Yeah. I'm still not completely convinced that JJ should not just open the CD case and take out like an errant dog turd and put it into a PlayStation. But we should get to those after the break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Alright.
What do I know that song?
Pink Panther. Everybody knows that song.
Okay.
What haven't we talked about in this game yet?
Almost anything hyper specific about its design.
What do you think about the bosses specifically? Like, did you think that they were like on par, better, or like shit?
I think that
I know JJ didn't say shit, but you know, I'm just.
I think that man, like I've already stated that I feel like the platforming levels are the strongest. So some of the bosses, there are only 5 bosses, so I can't really like make a I can't make a generalization like that. But Raleigh, a little bit Mugshot, and definitely Clockwork. All are fairly platform heavy. Raleigh in the most basic way imaginable.
Right.
Yeah.
With actual platforms.
Right. And Clockwork has just like, because he's a whole stage, he doesn't.
Right.
He's not broken up into levels in the way that the other ones were with an overworld. So, like the platform bosses, and actually I do like Panda King as sort of like a pure combat boss. Overall, I'd say that I'm fairly positive on the bosses, all things considered. And if what's your name, Madam
Miss Ruby.
Ms. Ruby,
Ms. Ruby.
yes, was better, like was more responsive, it would be my favorite boss in the game. I think.
I think Ms. Ruby had the best like conversation, like the best
Banter.
There it is.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
That's my favorite thing about the bosses is their character.
Right. They're very
Exaggerated?
yeah. It's like Kung Fu Panda before Kung Fu Panda. Except with this time there's a literal Kung Fu Panda. But I mean like
Unlike in Kung
like,
Fu Panda.
there is a literal, I mean like in this game there is a literal Kung Fu Panda, but that's not what I'm talking about. I just mean that like that animal characterization based on like their nationality and personality meshed together. It was that sort of like, which I mean I'm sure this is not the first thing that did it, and I'm sure there are tons of examples of like animated films that do this kind of a thing. But like that's just sort of, it's a tried and true thing, and I think they do it well in this, particularly in Raleigh and Miss Ruby's case. I think both of them are like pretty much spot on. I really hate Mugshot because of the massive like oversight where they they give his backstory, and they're like, he was the run of the litter, and he got picked on, so he like became really muscular. And then you completely invalidate his attacks by making him drop his guns?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just punch you in the face? He's got massive arms.
Because he has to walk around.
He has to walk on it.
It's a fist.
He could do like kind of like a pivot thing where he like puts the fist in the ground and spins around.
And he didn't have the weird like tiny shrivel legs in the cutscenes and like the narrative content.
They mostly shot him from like the chest up.
Well,
It's
in fact,
like,
I will
big
say
barrel
but
chest.
they did that about a lot of them too. Like Raleigh, you didn't realize like one of the size of his top hat,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. But like it was the same case where it was like in the cutscenes you don't really actually understand like what
Exactly what they look like.
their frames are in the game until you actually see them.
In fact, I don't even really understand in the mugshot boss fight like what you're doing. Like, where is it established that like mugshot's guns like dissipate in the presence of light or whatever? Like he doesn't like hate light. And why? Like those two things don't have any kind of connection. You like flip the mirrors to get sunlight to reflect into these big crystals, and then he goes yow when the
No, I
guns
think
disappear.
he's being like it's like a laser, right? Like so,
Yeah.
you know, like you take a magnifying glass with the sun, you can like burn ants.
But
I'm
it's
good.
not
Okay,
like
it is an extremely flawed execution.
Oh yeah,
But that is
agreed.
exactly what they're going for, is that the mirrors are reflecting light into the crystals,
Yeah.
which are then refracting like a very concentrated...
It's like a laser.
you mean the
Literally-
opposite of refraction?
It's literally
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
it's literally just a
and,
laser.
And
You're
it's just like
making
heating the
a
guns
bunch of
and it's
lasers.
burning his hand.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think
And then apply to your staff, and
I don't think it
it
was
only
that
works
much
when
about,
exactly all of them are completed.
Yeah,
Like
that's the thing I'll say is that like you have like 9 out of 10 lasers
But you know
pointing
what?
at it, but they don't do shit until the 10th laser. It's like
This is,
insane.
I mean, this is in no way worse than being like, if you shoot somebody 100 times with a gun, they can still operate at full capacity.
Yeah,
but like,
I'm about to
once
say
they
something.
take their last hit point, they're down for the count. Like, it's not.
it's
there's
just how video games work.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just dumb.
It's just-
but it just happened.
prior to the conversation, I wasn't even aware of the like make the guns hot justification. I literally just didn't understand
Really?
anything that was happening. Yeah.
He's like, you ruined my guns. He's like,
Good thing
I have more
got
ups and stairs.
spares. Going escalators. More guns.
And it's like, why do you just have guns on these different levels of like weird, like spire, like
including on top of his like chandelier.
Yeah,
He
like,
stores guns in his chandelier.
and his chandelier just happens to be on this huge crystal at the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought
he
that
cares
was-
so much about mirrors.
Dude, but it
He
is
wants
a
to look at his
fun
guns.
boss battle.
It's fun.
With guns, you know what I'm talking about? You see what I did there with the
Right, his
like,
guns.
guns
Yeah.
and his guns, you know what I'm saying?
But other than that,
That makes a lot more sense if you saw the motions I just did.
yeah.
But
You never will.
you never will.
We'll post a photograph. Is it weird that I imagine like a young Faun playing this game at like age 10 or whatever with like the beard and a flat, like, a flat bill hat?
It is so interesting if you knew who I was when I was 10 years old versus who I am now. It's the most interesting like juxtaposition of people. Like,
Yeah, I think for like
Yeah.
the audience's like enjoyment, like you're the type of person because Faun is not the first person I think we would have pegged as like a friend of ours who would be on the cast who would like have like opinions on games generally. When Faun first told me that he played World of Warcraft,
oh, you can't tell people that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Who are you guys?
ruined my persona.
You're not.
man.
You're not gonna show this podcast to people who you don't want to know you play WoW.
Point. Big point.
But like, yeah, like when I was like shocked. I was taken aback by this.
Taken
Yeah.
aback.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like you're like in the context of this like podcast and in like all of the classes that we just take together generally, so much more like mild than like any of your other like outgoing personality traits would have assumed. You're definitely the like unexpected thinker.
Okay.
I would say, I remember
Tell me more about myself.
Yeah, we've been. I'm just gonna actually bring out the making
I
sure before.
remember rolling into like a philosophy club once with a Kingdom Hearts T-shirt, and you were
Yep.
like, "Oh, I was just talking about Kingdom Hearts. I love that game." And I was like, "What? Faun played Kingdom Hearts?"
I remember that too because that shirt is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we're done talking about how fantastic Faun Cushman is, and his childhood, both past, present, and future Faun.
Twitter handle OG Cushman, look me up.
Yeah. At OG Cushman. Well, yeah, we'll put that at the end.
Please don't look me up.
Too late now.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just like, because discussing the bosses of this game is just like, these bosses are so video game bosses, and arguably, maybe inarguably, a little bit racially insensitive.
Oh yeah, I'd say yes.
Like, Panda King is the worst offender by a pretty wide margin.
Like, I'm so many steps behind in criticizing this game, like, even having the kind of criticisms that would approach, like, the sort of, like, social justice stuff that people often talk about in the context of, like, modern games.
Right.
Like, I haven't even, like, brought up the way that, like, Police Girl is treated, because it's so many
Police
steps.
Girl.
Yeah.
Carmelita
Carmelita
Fox.
Fox.
Yeah, because that's...
She has a name, JJ.
Wow.
and I don't remember it.
You chauvinist pig.
Yes.
If JJ was in the game, he would be a literal pig.
Yeah. with red hair.
Big old chops.
Wait,
Yeah.
who would you be, Chad, if you were in the game?
Also a pig. No,
Cat would be a shark.
yeah, that would be a
Shark?
shark. Kind, yeah.
What's
be like
the
one of those, like-
justification for you being a shark?
Like the comedic, like, fun time sharks. The ones
Like
that are like...
Bruce
I'm sorry,
from,
the comedic fun time shark?
Yeah, comedic fun time sharks.
Like the shark
Like
in
what?
Toy Story.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Like a
Ooh.
squeaky toy
Yeah.
shark.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he's got the hat on.
I'd be a
Oh,
gadget.
yeah.
What was the Hanna-Barbera cartoon that starred a shark with a
Oh.
tiny hat?
Fuck.
That was
Did
the
he have a
specific
hat?
touchstone that I was going for.
I do know what you're talking about.
He
but
had
I
a
can't
hat at
remember what
least.
it's
God,
called.
what was that show
I don't
called?
know.
It's because, like, all Hanna-Barbera is, like, 2 generations behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
There's
about
no
to
reason
say.
we know any of this.
I'm on it.
What about you,
Don't you
Edie?
worry.
All right.
I don't know.
Who would Andy be?
You were going to bring up like an actual
Oh,
cogent
silly
point
man.
about Carmelita Fox.
Oh, yeah. Just
But
that
I literally, it's probably not even a point that needs said, but
Yeah.
please go ahead.
the game plays the, like, this, like, too business-heavy woman needs, like, a suave man in her life to get her things all online. Straight. It plays it completely straight.
Yeah, it is
For
a-
10-year-olds.
It's great because
Yeah.
it is a trope, but like because they play it so straight, it's like all comedic value is taken like completely away from it when you're looking at it
It's
from
like
a
a 10-year-old,
non 12-year-old perspective, and you're like, all right.
We're like, oh, God, this is...
Oh, just for any 10 to 12-year-olds out there that are playing this game right now, Sly and Carmelita are definitely fucking.
Oh,
Oh.
you just that's like telling those kids that Santa Claus is.
I know. I
Totally
just want to let you know.
real.
They're like,
You made all of their dreams come true.
the only thing that you really need to know is that Sly's definitely trying to get in those jeans.
There's a weird cultural
And those are
discussion
jeans.
buried
Are they?
in,
She's
like,
wearing jeans.
why, like, telling a kid that 2 people are having sex is, like, disastrous in the same way that learning Santa Claus isn't real.
I actually,
There's a lot to unpack
I
there.
said that the opposite way. That Santa Claus
Yeah,
is
is-
totally
is-
real.
Oh, my bad.
Because
I'm
Making
misspoke.
dreams come
yeah,
true.
because unfortunately, or fortunately, Sly Cooper, the raccoon, and Carmelita Fox, the fox, are not actually fucking because they're characters in a video game.
You
So
don't know
telling
that.
them that they are,
Alternative universe.
yeah, it's just kind of gross. Weirdly though, those levels are some of my favorites in the game.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just really fun, like fast,
Like the
like
scrolling
active
type.
platforming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Where it's most like Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, I was about to say that's exactly like you're literally just you're playing a scrolling platform.
Mhm.
I
it's,
think going back to it, except for like when you get later in those levels and like some of the platforms start dropping and you have to deal with the environment and not just her. The game, they do a good job making it seem like there's a whole lot of tension on you, but it's not really true. You can dodge your bullets kind of easily from like a standing position.
No,
I don't know
Kind of
how
it-
because it's obviously like the most
Easily.
high-powered weapon of
Yeah.
all time.
they talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
They call it a bazooka at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm trying to capture a criminal, I'm definitely going to use the slowest moving projectile weapon I can find.
It's the only non-lethal option they had available at
Yeah,
police headquarters.
Like a tranquilizer dart gun, and it's
Don't you have like a
huge-
taser or like maybe like one of those like bean bags or
Yeah.
something?
In the description of non-lethal, except this non-lethal happens to blow up vehicles.
By police organization, we mean like international like crime investigation.
Because she just rolls around and like arrests all of the bosses as you finish them.
Speaking of which, how like what percentage did Sly Cooper like help her career? Like she was nobody until she caught like the biggest 5 criminals in the world.
4, because Clockwork kept getting destroyed, but whatever.
4, because of Sly Cooper.
I really think that's the exact message the game is trying to send. That this woman was really nothing until
You chauvinist pig, JJ.
I love that, like, in the game, like, they make it a point to tell you that Sly Cooper only steals from thieves, but, like, they never show him doing that, so as far as you know, he's just lying about it.
No, and in the little
The
cartoon
cutscenes,
clips,
yeah.
and they're like, we... like fucking ran around Hollywood for a while, and he's like got a bunch of stuff to steal.
It's like he's like stealing like a baguette, and you're like, no criminal
He's
had
got-
like a loaf of bread that you were
He's got
taking.
like the
you took
stars from Hollywood Boulevard. It's like,
You're hanging out in Cairo.
what thief did you steal those from?
Are those even technically owned by anyone? That just seems like a cultural
City?
icon.
Yeah, it's like
He's just treating
Department
the
of
city of
Transportation.
Hollywood as a criminal.
It's like
Yeah.
stealing the D
Which-
from the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
I'm not even that adverse to thinking that.
He's
way,
just
so.
opposed to Hollywood whitewashing.
Yeah, I mean,
He's like, I need more raccoon representation.
Weren't they in Cairo and he stole like the Sphinx or something like that?
It's still the
They were-
Sphinx.
Not the Sphinx, but they were in like Egypt at one point. He stole something.
It would have been in a
else.
later game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
okay,
they ever
maybe
go
not.
to Egypt.
Oh.
Surprising.
This is actually an amazing segue
Cutscene.
into the only cool
Maybe.
fun fact that I have.
Oh man, how cool
Hold on,
is this
fun
fact?
facts. Fun
Yeah,
facts.
the only cool fun fact that I have about this game that I did look up, in regard to both bosses and them gallivanting around the world, in a note that Sly makes at the end of the Ms. Ruby level cutscene, the charge that Carmelita arrests her on is zombification, which he says was made illegal in 1971. That is true. Zombification was made illegal in Haiti in the early 70s. The governing body that he cites is made up. That law actually does exist.
That was-
and so technically she would be being charged with attempted murder.
That was set
Okay.
in Haiti, right? Ms. Ruby was in.
Yeah,
Haiti.
Yeah, it was in Haiti. So he's totally legit.
How shitty did you feel as a Haitian playing this game? You're like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. How
This is
shitty do you
not-
feel as a member of any of these?
Yeah.
I will give Raleigh a pass because,
It's just Europe.
well,
Yeah.
well, he's
Wales.
he's British. I don't know
In
about
the Welsh
Wales.
Triangle.
I thought
Yeah, he's in the
They
Welsh
are.
And we
I thought he was
well,
like
we
a
all know how
sky
shitty
pirate.
Wales is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it totally
Wales,
makes sense.
Mesa City.
I think that he's supposed to be a Jack the Ripper
Yeah.
spin-off because he jumps high, spring-heeled Jack, that kind of thing, and so that's been ripped on enough that I feel like at the very least it's not a racial thing. It's about a particular serial killer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the voodoo priestess is not is not representative of modern Haitians.
Right.
But I mean, I just don't think they give a shit.
I think they really nailed Midwest America though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm well, he's a weird mashup though of he's an Italian mobster
Yeah.
and also the junkyard dog, prison inmate tough guy.
No, that's very
I mean, let's go hand in hand.
I mean, it's true, sort of, but it's
you often see this sort of like mob culture represented in popular culture in the context of Las Vegas and places like that. You know,
Yeah.
the idea of being the mob picks you up and takes you out into the middle of the desert to kill and put your bodies somewhere and the police won't be able to find you.
with a clever euphemism thrown in there.
Yeah, although I do agree that Raleigh's mix of tropes is kind of weird and unclear. At
I don't
times.
understand why he's in a blimp.
Yeah.
It's his bad weather machine.
Yeah.
I guess I thought he was a sky pirate. Essentially, I don't know. I didn't.
He just makes the weather bad so that no one can come to the island.
I didn't
No,
even
it's so the
catch the
ship's
European
crashed,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you can collect all the loot.
Yeah, and also so that no one can bust him by coming in on a boat.
That's true.
In the Haitian level, is me potentially being ignorant here. Isn't that music just Southern Bayou tunes?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's Louisiana inspired.
Yes, they mixed Haiti
Right.
and the Bayou together.
Yeah,
to
it's
create
in the
this
straight-
weird combination
Yeah.
of
But
voodoo.
that is my favorite world.
Yeah.
Though.
It
That
is
is my
really-
favorite design, especially in terms of levels. But
It has the worst minigames.
Yeah, the
Right.
the enemies in that are really cool as well.
I will say
There's one time that it's just like, let's just go hog wild, like ghosts, swamp monsters, giant snakes.
Yeah.
The
whatever you
level
want,
with
man.
like the giant sea monsters.
Right.
Yeah.
My question about the giant sea monster is, so it escapes and then it's
Yeah.
just like chilling.
Yeah.
Like, but like, what's the point? Like, they were like made this whole to do about like, oh, like
They're trying to
we're
keep
gonna
something
trap.
in.
Yeah, we're keeping this huge giant sea monster because assuming that if it gets let out, it's gonna wreak havoc.
Right.
And then it gets let out in what opens a door that you needed to open so
Yes.
you can get to the next level. Like,
tears right through it.
and that's it. And then it's like, oh, well.
Also, the snake does not give a shit at all. Like the sea monster, whatever, the hydra.
Well, yeah, whatever.
Does not give a shit about eating you at all.
No,
Because
they're
when
not
you get to
doing
the end of
right
the level,
hands,
he
it's
just
like
goes like,
this,
"See you
right
later," and like goes. In
He
the
saw
direction.
freedom and decided that was more tasty.
That's true. Nothing is more delicious
Quips.
than
I
freedom.
like
Yeah.
it.
Nope.
Quips.
Don't fucking punctuate our quips with the word quips.
No, but it's like meta. It's like meta
Oh.
comedy.
I was going to go in and edit the word quips in every time we made it.
Oh, you piece of shit.
Do you need me to? Do you need sound bites from me?
Yeah,
Quips. 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 Is that good? Or
that's
Yeah.
probably fine.
All right.
But no, the enemies in this level, specifically in Haiti, are what I think emblematic of a lot of things about like how because the enemies in this game, as we've discussed before, are comically ineffective.
Yeah. Chad and I had this discussion.
Yeah, it's like they very rarely pose more of a problem than just area denial.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is fine, like that's their, I assume, intended purpose. But at the same time, like, you know the mosquito enemies?
Yeah.
I know the words.
I have no idea what their hitbox is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, like, I feel like I'm now going in the opposite direction of you guys. Because I was 100% sure that I got killed by those, and they just missed somehow. Like, they would just be like, stinger in my eyeball, sucking my brains out through my skull, and I'm just like, what, I'm fine. They're over there now. Like, I don't understand. And then the big green moss monsters will hit you from like 1,000 feet away.
Yeah, I never really understood a lot of the like specific enemy design in the game. It always felt like it was a little bit of a worst of both worlds situation where you have incredibly like easy to avoid, not particularly engaging foes that kill you in one hit unless you have like enough of the coins,
Right.
or have lost so many times in a row that they just start you with a new one of
Right.
the little things.
I will say I thought the most comically ineffective one in the whole game was the Panda King level, and it's the female like cheetah or whatever, which one I was interested that was the animal that they chose to be in like the northern peaks of China.
Right, yeah,
Was this
they,
like cheetah or whatever? But it was so comical. It's almost like they meant to make it comical because she does like 3 flips and then does like this crazy like nunchuck bow staff thing and it's like about to fight you and you can just be like, it's like, and their hitbox is so far away like it's like twice the like your staff is like twice the length of their hitbox. So you can just sit there and like there are times where I would do it on purpose and like let them do all of their flips and crazy things just to like hit them once in the face.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull a deep cut here. There was a game that I played on the original Xbox. It was called Justice League Legends,
Ooh.
and it was like a weird beat 'em up game from like an isometric perspective. And Huntress was one of the characters you could play in that game, and she is exactly those cheetah enemies. Every one of her attacks starts like a 14-hit combo, and then at the end of it, you just get murdered. So like that, you just like watch these dudes do like backflips and spins, and then you're just like bonk on to the next one.
Much bonk.
Yeah, very weird.
I actually thought maybe some of the
Wow.
toughest enemies were in mugshots, just
Yeah.
because they used some bullets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where was there like the
Rottweilers.
the Rottweilers? They're, first off, I love that character model where they're
Just
wearing, like,
is hysterical.
like they're wearing like
funny.
zoot suits and they got like the
Yeah.
glasses on. They're carrying around like these big
And
machine
the way that
guns,
they
just, like-
walk is
and they're
like...
they're like the cool guys on the block.
Yeah.
But they were difficult, right? If they saw you, I mean, like
Yeah,
it
they
was very
shot
difficult to
really
like dodge
fast.
that bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. As bullets tend to be.
Right.
When they're not fired out of a...
I was about to say,
Laser.
not counting Carmelita's shock bazooka.
And
the
Mugshots guns, which are dodgeable.
Also true, you can jump those.
Yes.
I didn't realize that for a while, that's why I had so much trouble.
Me neither. It's a really huge bait and switch in that game because they set up the level design in the Mugshot boss fight as if you're supposed to constantly be undercover.
Yes.
But that's
and
not
then you
true.
didn't
at all.
have to be.
You just jump over the bullets.
Yes.
It becomes significantly easier once that clicks.
Well, Sly Cooper was obviously the
Faster than the speed.
right.
Sound.
He was the influence for the Matrix. That was
Oh, yeah.
That is true.
That movie that came out like 3
3
years
before, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were probably designing Sly Cooper a lot earlier, and then
Right.
the Wachowski brothers
Came to a
on
visit
that.
to Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
We really liked that robot game that you guys made.
What are you guys up to next? Oh, we're making this game about this guy that is apparently just dodge any weapon you throw at him, including bullets. What?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Cancel our project on
Yeah.
the metrics.
Yeah.
A game about a movie about statistics. We're gonna change this shit up.
Instead, just learn about statistics on our own time and
Yeah.
stop trying to impose it on the United States. Yeah.
See what else? We gotta talk about something substantial here.
Oh, no, we don't. I liked the animation sometimes. I thought the animation was super hit and miss.
Man, JJ.
I know, right?
I have a question.
You were ripping
Is there
Sly Cooper
one?
and
Is there
Noah.
any one thing that you just enjoyed about this game?
Like,
No matter how small. Just
no qualifications.
no qualifications.
We should give him some kind of a qualification.
I
In
wanna
my
hear
head,
this.
but I'm
I wanna
prepared
hear-
to be
yeah,
disappointed.
Right.
I thought the game in the Mugshot, one of the levels in Mugshot's world, where it's like roulette wheel themed,
Yeah.
and towards the end of the level, you actually have to like jump on specific things in a roulette wheel.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually one of the few times the game did like a good job, like matching like the theme of the environment they were in with like specific game mechanics. I thought the neon sign level in the same world was also cool, and that you had to like climb on them.
Right.
And it was nice and circular. That was, I thought, a really good example of like a classic platformer level that also mixed in like the cool button that it was the game's apparent selling feature we've decided on constantly in the gameplay.
Contextual cool button.
Yeah. And the game, I think, does a really good job at all of its transitions, especially within the context of like a PS2 title. Like load times are extremely mild, even on like the old versions of the PS2. And there's lots of just like you just go from the car to the base to all the individual levels without feeling like you're going through menus. They contextualize it well, and I like what they did with the hub worlds, and that you still have to like kind of play the game just a little bit in a much easier fashion to get to the levels.
Yeah.
It made it seem like it made it seem more like you were sneaking in than.
Yeah, because the hub worlds all had like there's an infiltration
There are
mission,
enemies, yeah.
and then there's an area that has enemies, and then they're the like main levels,
Mhm.
the 6 main levels. So
Yeah, I thought that was good.
yeah, that was actually doesn't that feel good? Say some nice things.
I mean, I already said that I liked my favorite levels in the whole game were the pursuit levels because they had a
Yeah.
nice sense of tension and.
I was just like, for some reason, I expected you to be like, I like the sound it makes when you hit continue. on
Yeah,
the menu."
right.
It's like,
I liked it when it was over.
Yeah.
So you said the jungle was your favorite.
Yeah.
What about you
The
guys?
swamp.
I have
Yeah.
one that was my favorite, but then I ended up being disappointed, and we can talk about that. But, what was your favorite, Chad?
Oh, I also am partial to the swamp, though. I think platforming-wise, that my Shot's level is probably the best.
I would have thought. Do you like that one too? Because I actually thought that one maybe tied in the environment to the actual levels and platforming more than most.
Yeah, all my favorite levels are mugshot levels.
Really?
Really, yeah.
Okay then. I liked the Panda King. I liked the China.
China's pretty solid.
I really enjoyed almost all of the levels, and you said you actually enjoyed, but I was so disappointed by that boss. Actually, that's my least
Panda
favorite
King?
Oh,
boss.
the Vatican one?
Because it's just combat. There's
Right.
nothing else
It's
involved.
a difference in kind.
What do you
than
mean?
The others.
Yeah, it is different. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. And I understand they had to shake it up, I guess, but there's just zero platforming involved at all. Like
You have to jump up 3 stairs.
yeah, and except you don't have to jump. You can just run up the steps.
That's
you know?
true.
I mean, there's not even like.
He's got you there, Chad.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't actually
I
have to
think-
jump it
I
up.
That's
think
kind of
they-
the purpose of steps.
Yeah, I think they originally meant for that boss to be like, because alright, so you know how it's in that circle and it kind of goes down like an amphitheater.
Yeah, it's good.
I think you're supposed to like hide behind the statues
Well, he
and
said the
dodge.
thing, but really
except
you
you
can
never had to do that. Like you could just run up there and just hit him.
Yeah.
And then it takes you two tries to like learn all of the sounds to like each attack.
Yeah, all of his moves.
So that
I
you're
never
never
figured
gonna-
out how to dodge the palm attack, where he like just throws two hands down in front of him.
You go behind it.
Which makes sense. I just never had to. It killed me once, and then every time he did it, I would always knock him into the next phase and be like, "Oh, thank God, I didn't have to deal with it."
No, that was one of the things that I just was a little. Like, I loved all the levels of that, honestly. I mean, maybe not the minigame levels, but all of the platforming levels, I just thought that the aesthetics of that whole, like, group was just right up my alley.
Yeah,
right?
Fire in the Sky has a bit of a...
Fire in the Sky, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has the advantage of having given you all of your moves.
Yep.
So you're allowed to just sort of go with the flow, literally, just like flow through the levels. And
I think
it feels really satisfying.
Yeah, it's got the best platforming, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said Fire in the Sky. I will say this: I really enjoyed the intro. It was like an episode.
Oh yeah, it's got
Sly
the
Cooper
names.
in Fire in the Sky.
Yeah,
Or, you know what I'm saying? Or like,
was it Reign of Terror?
Yeah, Reign of
Sunset
Terror.
Snake Eyes.
Has,
I don't remember the Haiti one.
I can't. Is something of Doom, right?
Voodoo something.
I thought there was the word
Voodoo.
Voodoo. They really dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, Sly Cooper in Voodoo. No,
you can say like a guy walks in and is like voodoo and like writes an M on
Yeah.
his head and then just like throws
I
his
was,
hands up
like-
and walks away.
I think that actually makes a good it just ties into what we were talking about earlier, where I actually do the style of this game is really what got me, I think. And I mean, like, the platforming is great, I think, whatever, we can argue about that, but just the style of, so one, everybody's an animal, and then you got like, and it's in this like stylized context where it's almost like noir type like lighting and things like that, and then it's a Sly Cooper in Fire in the Sky, and then it's very
Yeah, it has like,
Like,
it takes like the
conceptualized from
tropes of, because the game is it's themed around like films basically,
Right.
And it takes the tropes and it takes the aesthetics and all the things that make up those genres and puts them together into these like individualized levels, and that's what I meant when I was talking about like the dinosaur level in an SNES game. It's like this game has like the James Bond level or whatever.
The Haitian level.
Yeah, the Haitian level. That is actually a thing
Yeah, it's
in
always-
games, which is weird.
You don't play that all the time, Jimmy?
No,
There's
I-
always a Haitian level.
Dude, Tony Hawk's Underground 2
Haitian.
had a weird Haitian level.
Really? I actually did not.
Not even. I think it was Underground 2.
It's
I'm not
been a
gonna-
while since
I'm-
I've played those.
I won't swear to that, but there was like a weird voodoo level.
Tony Hawk, early good one.
And I think that's
Yeah,
what
roughly.
I think that's just what I enjoyed, because like you play a lot like Mario, right? So like you look at the first Mario 64, and there are different levels. Obviously, there's like ice and things like that, but the basic layout of a lot of the levels in that were centralized around the area that he was in.
Right.
Like before, even when he was going into these different places. This is like where they take it's like 5 main worlds, and each one is just unique.
You got a lot of personality.
Right. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of the game, because I don't like you get bored playing the same like levels over and over, right? Like, or like this, like maybe different types of the level, like different challenges and things like that, but the aesthetic stays the same.
I think that overall could be like summarized into JJ's whole thesis statement of it's like lots of personality on its own, floating around in the ether, not attached to anything.
Right.
I don't know. I certainly didn't hate it, but I was attached to this game mechanically, and I liked it a lot as a kid, so it had that nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
That's what I got really.
Do you guys want to talk about the final level / final boss?
I mean,
Yeah.
if you do.
I do, because I think it's bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I understood what they were trying to do, where it was like you like went through all these levels and you learned all these different moves that you could do with the C button. So they're like, okay, so now our final level.
Button?
Yeah, the contextual cool button.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's like on the N64.
The CC button.
Yeah.
The CC
You
button.
didn't just like erase the little bit of the circle.
Yeah,
so that
just
it
made
matched.
It's just a C.
Yeah.
You
They
pressed
did
it
nail
so often that it
Get on
wore
the-
off.
Take
Get
out
on the
nail
same-
polish remover.
Get on the
A
same
little
page,
bit.
okay?
Gotcha.
No,
The contextual cool button.
Right.
Yeah.
well, and circle button. See, it just fits
So, yeah.
everything about it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I understand that they were like, okay, final level, we got to take everything that you've learned.
But see,
Like that's a standard platform.
they don't do that. What they do is they take all the mini games and the turret sections and they shove all that in and make that the final level.
Yeah.
You're riding in
That's
the
true.
van and you're shooting shit and it's a turret
That
section
was
and you're like,
that.
this is
mission's
bullshit.
so
This is not the
good.
part of the game that I liked.
Right.
And then you have to do the hacking part, which I actually like.
That
I was
one's
gonna say
that
the
one's
hacking
dope
is
as
fun.
fuck.
hacking
Hacking
part
is
is
fun.
sweet, and they
Yeah.
made it like a bigger part of the later games.
Right.
But
Number 2.
But it's completely curveball.
Right.
You know, you've never done that before. And then like there's like like this much platforming, and
Yeah.
then you're at the boss, and it's like a
And
dumb
you're the
jetpack
turret.
turret,
Right.
and it's like, what?
I did like I liked the where you had to save Carmelita. That was kind of
Okay,
difficult.
yeah.
And then after that, where the lava's rising and you have to climb that big tower. Of
Okay, maybe there's a little bit.
Literally,
more
like,
platforming.
tower is just made up of like all of the pieces that you can like hit the circle button and do things with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I mean, like obviously,
There was
it's a.
I
game.
had my two major issues with the last level and why I don't like it so much, in addition to the reasons you've already stated,
Yes.
is that the areas where there were platforming, I think it was some of the like most hackneyed platforming in the game.
Yep.
Because like on the tower climb level, okay, let me contextualize this.
Alright.
I wanted to beat this game in this day that I had to beat the game, and I was like, I got to the last level and I was like, I'm just gonna push through this. I work midnight, so I'm up late all the time. But it is 6 in the morning. And I'm sitting in a goddamn leather chair in the summer in like 90-degree weather with a fan blowing on me. Well, put yourself in my shoes is what I'm saying. I'm miserable.
Okay. I don't want to put myself in those shoes because
No.
they're probably filled with
So,
sweat.
yeah, they're gross and sticky. And so I'm sitting here, and there's this fucking tower climb, and you get to the top of the thing, and like, I've already done this like 9 times by the time I actually get to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I get to the end, and there's like, you get to the top of a thing, and then like you hit something. I forget at this point, but something explodes, and part of the roof slides down, and nothing looks like a thing you can land on. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm hanging on this pole, and I'm like, I'll jump straight forward. So I jump straight forward onto like a flat section of roof and clip through it and fall into the lava. I was like, okay, that wasn't signaled very well. So I do the whole tower climb again. I get back to the top. I'm in the same situation. I'm like, what do I jump to? And there's like part of a gargoyle that's fallen this way, and it's like, maybe I jump and like spire jump onto that. And so I jump, don't even come close to it, plummet into the lava. And then on the third time, I realized what you have to do is jump to this like weird slanted roof segment and then run up it as if it was just flat ground to get to the jetpack. And I was just like so angry that the whole final boss was just like lost on me because I was just.
I mean, the
already
final
mad.
boss, like you said, was just you're in a jetpack turret, and it's like
You
not
had to
you-
fly through rings.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you don't even get the platform. It was like,
It shows you the true power of that shotgun, though.
yo,
Yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't it though?
doesn't do a whole lot.
It was a classic like Resident Evil style rocket
Right.
launcher punt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was to me like that was I was not
Yeah.
excited about
Everything that you could do wrong with like a final level, this game does.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Because
Which is for me like the blemish on this game.
Mhm.
Right.
I agree with that.
they thought the kids would really like, sweet rocket pack when they fire their launcher.
And that was the thing, like you.
And with the big flying
But
cruiser.
yeah, like all the other bosses are like pretty good, and then this
Right.
one they were just like,
And-
no,
and
let's
it
not
had
do any of
nothing
that
to do-
stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with anything that you had been doing.
Yeah, and like
right?
Clockwork was such like a menacing presence over the whole game.
Right.
And then they were just like, nope,
just gonna fuck it up.
not cool.
He's just gonna shoot
and all
like
of that.
rings of like fire at you.
The
like, fly
jetpack
through.
would have even been a cool surprise, like that you get to fly a jetpack or whatever. If you're the kind of person who's like, oh, I gotta fly a jetpack, baller.
Yeah.
But as long as you are not Satan and are okay for some reason, all right with inverted vertical movement on a turret, which doesn't make sense. You've already gone into the menu that alters like the up and down direction and saw jetpack controls.
Right.
So you know it's in the game already.
I actually did not even.
You didn't notice?
No, I didn't even notice.
I was like, jetpack? I don't even remember
Well, I mean, like,
a
so
jetpack in this game.
I guess like the first time I played it, I didn't notice, and then like now that I played it, I remembered that was in the game. So I was like, I wasn't surprised by a jetpack or anything like that. I never did notice that you could control the jetpack.
Yeah, it's just very weird that like the inverted controls are set as default because I don't know anyone who does
Nobody.
Really stupid question.
Sure.
Did we do Ori and the Blind Forest for the cast?
No, we have not done that.
Oh, okay. So I just played that individually because it was a fun game. The people who hate me because of all the platformers we've done that I despise, Ori and the Blind Forest is like an amazing game and is a platformer, but that game proves, again, just building on all these years of like trial and error and platformer design, that you can have like ridiculous like vertical movement capabilities in a platformer and have it still be an engaging last level. Like they could have given you a jetpack and still made a actual platforming level.
Right.
That was fun.
You beat Ori and the Blind Forest?
I've had this conversation with you. I love the shit out of Ori.
I didn't know that you had beaten it though. That game is really hard.
I know. It's great.
How are you incapable of playing platformers?
Okay, hold on. Don't go too much into it because
Next
I want
week
to
we're going to be
play it.
talking about Ori and the Blind
Yeah,
Forest.
I want to play it, and maybe we'll do it for the cast at some point.
Is there anything else we want to talk about Sly Cooper?
I fucking hated the music.
You hated it?
What?
Oh yeah.
Like why?
Annoying.
Jesus, JJ.
That's just so
Never
random.
mind that.
JJ hates everything in this game.
Well, I apologize for making you play this game because you just apparently had the worst time.
Well, that always
That means something to me.
The whimsical Sly Cooper game
Yeah.
Right.
is totally lost on JJ.
Yeah.
No. I think that the takeaway here is that if you like Sly Cooper,
You're dumb.
You're an idiot. Thank you for listening to No Clip this week. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
I was gonna say, what are we playing next time, Chad?
Next time, in order to make up for the amount of garbage we've put JJ through in the past year, almost a year at this point, we have given him the month of September. To,
The whole month?
Give him it's
That's
2
2
episodes.
games.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm happy about it. Don't you take this away from me.
You give him
You took Sly Cooper with
you give JJ an episode, he'll take a month. That wasn't good.
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was about as bad as it could have gone.
Just tell us what's next.
So therefore, next time we're going to be playing Catherine with a C, which is it's an Atlus game.
It is an
right?
Atlus game.
It's probably, likely the only Atlus game that you're going to hear us talk about.
Probably. Yep.
But I believe that it is probably them at their pinnacle. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do so at noclippodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at noclippodcast, on YouTube just noclip, and search iTunes for noclip if for some reason you aren't already listening to us there. If you have an opportunity, leave a review or just a rating. And everybody, please thank Faun for joining us on this ride.
Unless you didn't like him.
Yeah.
In which case,
Tell
do
us
not
how
welcome
bad.
you.
In which case, thank me anyway.
Yeah.
Write and review Faun separately through all of
Yes.
these different media outlets.
Great. Please,
Good.
please grade me some more.
Yeah, we've talked about him enough, and I think you've got a good idea of Faun, not only as a lover of Sly Cooper, but as a human being.
Yeah. At OG Cushman.
Yeah.
Hit me up. It's with a C.
This always happens. Our outros are like 6 minutes each, and I always
Just
have
like
to cut
have
them
to,
down
like-
15 seconds.
I love it. Yep.
Alright, shutting down in 5, 4, 3,
4,
2,
3,
1.
2.